Hi everyone, I'm back again for yet another video. This time I'm going to show you how to make cherry blossom. Today's the 29th of March, and if anybody's watching today or in the future, this is the day that we in the UK started coming out of lockdown. So big yay for that. So anyway, I'll get on with the demonstration now. Right, so what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to show you how to make the individual flowers. This is one here. I have the close up to the camera. I've also done some buds. And I haven't done any leaves this time because when the cherry blossom comes out on the branches, it's just a big mass of flowers, and the leaves follow afterwards. They probably start coming out while they're still in flower, but generally you've got bare branches with all these lovely flowers on them. Now, before I start, there's quite a few different kinds of cherry blossom. I didn't realise how many were until I started researching on it. But there are a lot of different ones, anything from plain white through to quite deep pink ones. I've gone for sort of middle of the road with the ones that I've done, but I will explain about the others as I go along. So I'll start off by getting some white paste out. So I've got some white paste here. This has gone a little bit crusty, so as I showed in the last video, if you've got a little bit of crusty bits in your paste, don't throw it away. Get it onto your rolling board, knead it, then just go over it with your rolling pin, like that. Roll it out, and then re-knead it. And you're back to the way that it should be. I always try and add tips in while I'm going along, and as I've said before, I don't edit out anything that goes wrong either, because it doesn't matter how good you are, we still all make mistakes. I keep saying this in every video that I've done, but for people that haven't watched one of my videos before, I don't edit out. Everything that you see on camera is as it happens while I'm filming it. Right. So I found the best way to do the cherry blossoms. You could do them with a cutter, and this is an Orchard product cutter. They do go down to a very small one, and you could do that, but you'd have to do it with a Mexican hat back, as I did in the last video that I had with the anemones. But for people that don't have equipment, this is one good way of doing it, because everybody needs certain types of equipment in their arsenal. Silk veining tool. This is by Gem. The only other firm that I've seen that does these is I've forgotten the name of it now. It'll come to me in a bit when I'm not thinking about it. One of these tools, which has got the star ends on them, a pair of nail scissors, and your ball tool. Now I'm using quite a small ball tool here because the flowers are quite small that we're going to do. So you have to think about the size of the flower you're going to do when you pick which ball tool you're going to work with. I've also used a cutting wheel as well. This is a PME one. As far as I'm aware, PME are the only ones that do this cutting wheel. If you see any other makes, a lot of them have got a thicker wheel on it. Doesn't do the same as this. This is what we use for these boards, so we don't damage them for cutting things out. Right, so on with the game. First of all, I need to make the stamens. Right, so what I've done is I've wound some white cotton round my fingers 10 times. And what I've done is, I found the easiest way to do these stamens, because they're quite small in the centre, is to cut into the cotton. Unlike the way we did before, where I did the wires round the cotton, this time I'm just going to cut the cotton straight across, because we don't want as many stamens in. But if you use the ready-made stamens, apart from the fact it's more cost, so I've got my bunch of stamens there. So what I did to do these stamens was, have I got a spare 26 gauge wire? No, I haven't got one cut. As with most flowers, I'm doing a 26 gauge wire, but I'm using a green one this time because you're not going to see it, so it doesn't really matter what size you use. So if you can cut it into about 6. Right, so I'm going to use a 26 gauge wire for all the buds and the flowers, and I'm going to use a smaller wire for doing buds on the twigs. So you can cut this into about 6, because you don't need long wires for this, because it's all going to be tied in very closely to the branches. So unlike a lot of professionals do, using long wires and then cutting bits off, it's alright for some of them, because a lot of them get the equipment given to them. I don't, I buy mine. So like most people, we have to be a little bit wary of the cost of everything that you're doing. I don't need all those, so I'm just going to pop those to the side for a minute. So back to the stamens, and I've just knocked them off somewhere, so I don't know where they've gone. I'm going to cut off about a short piece of the bunch of cottons that I've done here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape these onto the wire. I've got a tiny bit of tape here which will do for what I'm doing here. So if you start off your tape by stretching it, we're using Stemtex, which is actually a brand name. Some florist tapes, I'm using that name because some florist tapes are not suitable, and this one is stretchy, it's like crepe paper. So if you're buying this, ask your florist or wherever you're buying it from first before you buy it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the full bunch of cottons into the tape like that, and then just stretch with one hand and roll with the other onto your wire, and then at an angle, keep it at an angle and tape down. We do this with everything that we tape together, but make sure you get it tight, otherwise it can slip up and your stamens can come off. Now the stamens are quite spread in I haven't got any left in there. The stamens are quite spread in the flower, so what I'm going to do is, this is actually cotton by the way, and to this you need cotton, not polyester thread. So if you have a look online and make sure you get proper cotton thread, make sure it's not a polyester mix, because it won't work if you're going to do that. And what I did is I've got a little cap here, and I've got some hairspray, and I'm just going to spray some of it into the cap. And this is why I'm saying use cotton instead of polyester, because it won't soak any liquid up if you're doing this. I have done this before in another video, I can't remember which one it was. I'm just going to trim that off so they're all level, and then just dip the end of your cotton into the hairspray, and that will soak up. You'll see it go down your cotton. Then what you need to do then is, if you just get it against your finger and just spread out your stamens like that, and when it dries, the cotton will dry stiff. That's why I'm doing this. I don't think I've got one on there already. So the next step that you need to do then is just pop some glue just on the very edge of your cotton. Just let them dry first. I haven't done it with this, I'm just doing this just to show you. A little bit of glue right on the very end of your cottons, and then you want your pollen. I've shown you how to make this in previous videos. I've got some yellow pollen here. The pollen does vary depending on the variety of the cherry blossom you're doing. Just dip the ends in so you've got the pollen on the end of your cottons. and then put that to one side to dry. So let the hairspray dry before you do that, and that will be drying while I'm making the flour. So we'll come on to the flour. So we need a small bowl of flour paste. I always start off with white when I'm doing flours like this, because then you can colour it with your powder colours then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll one end of it into a cone like that. Turn that way up. Then you get your little pointy thing. This one's got two ends on. It's got a 6 pointed end and a 5 pointed end. I want 6 petals on this one. Some of the cherry blossom does have 5 petals, so you can use that as well. Into the centre, push down. Just squeeze your paste around it just to make sure that it's marked it well. Oops, that's a bit sticky. And what it does, it makes your marks where you want to cut. So then you go in with your nail scissors into the grooves and cut like that. Don't go too far down because you don't want to cut your petals off. You just want to cut to separate your petals. There we are. So they're all separated out like that. So the next step is I'm just going to put some light on here so you can see what I'm doing, because the sun's shining from one side. So if I put light on the other side, so you just open them out a little bit like that, and then if you get your pad, this is another piece of essential tool. This is a PME one. These are about £2.25, something like that, £2.50, depends where you buy them from. And get your ball tool, and then all you're going to do is just pull them out. Make sure that they're rounded on the end when you pull them out. So just roll it over, pull it out, try and get them all the same length. This is the same doing pulled flowers on you with your fingers. I learned how to do that when I first started and I could never master it, and I found this method a lot easier to do. So once you've got all your petals all opened out like that, then get it between your finger and your thumb, and then with your silk veining tool, roll to one side, roll back to the other side. In the centre, roll to one side, roll to the other side. So you're widening your petals and you're veining it at the same time because of the grooves in. That's just stuck together. Just make sure your petals are separated when you do this. I've lost my veining on that one doing that, so just do that again, just gently. This one's going to be a little bit tatty because I got hold of that petal and I shouldn't have done. Like I say, if things go wrong, I don't edit them out. I've cut a little bit there. The green fly's been at that one. We get all sorts of bugs in the garden, so they eat little bits off. I've seen people in competition go to the trouble of burning holes in petals and things like that to make it look as though the bugs have been at it. And it sometimes does add to the realism when you're doing these flowers. So we want those to come up a little bit, so I'm just going to go around and bring the petals up a little bit. Then get your stamen. You don't need to put any glue on for this. It depends on what kind of paste you're using, but if you're unsure and it's not sticky like this is, then put some glue just underneath your stamens there. Twist that into the centre so that it comes out of the bottom there like that. Pull your flower up until the green disappears into the base there, and you've just got your stamen showing. Roll it between your finger and your thumb like that to roll it onto the wire to make sure that it's stuck on, and then just go around and pull your petals up again. Now fortunately with these, because it's a small flower, those petals will stay like that when I put those to dry. So put that to one side to dry. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to make some buds. So again, 26 gauge wire. Oops, nearly dropped that on the floor. And make a little tiny hook on the end. Make sure it is small because they're going to be quite small of these. So a little hook on your wire like that. Anything that you're going to put anything on one wire, like the centre of roses and everything else, same principle, hook on the end. Small ball of paste, about the size of a pea, like that. We're going to keep that round. because the buds are quite round on cherry blossom. Into the centre of it with your wire, pull that down till your hook disappears into it. If you just get it between your finger and your thumb, and then just work your paste over the top, just to cover the top of that wire off, like that. Okay? And then, with your cutting wheel, go over, make a groove, and you're going to split this into 3. Because you've got 6 petals, you've got 3 outer petals and 3 inner petals. That's the way flowers open. Go in between the other 2 grooves as near as you can, like that. Okay? Set that to one side to dry. Right, so we've got all the bits and pieces made there for those. The other thing that you need to make is some buds for the branches. Now this is optional, you don't have to do this if you don't want, but if you want it to be quite realistic, then obviously you're going to have the buds on your branch that make up the rest of the stem. So I've coloured some paste here with some dark brown from Sugar Flare. Now with this I'm using a thinner wire than I've done before, so have I got any left on there? No, I need to get another wire out. Oh, I've got one there. I've got a white one. It doesn't matter what colour your wires are, you can use either white or green. Again, I'm going to put a little hook on the end of it, tiny little hook. And if you get a small piece of paste, this time it needs to be small. More like one of those little sweetie balls that you get. I don't know what they call them, I can't remember the name of them, but something like that. So put your wire into the centre of that. This is a 32 gauge wire, no 30 gauge wire I'm using here. Pull that down, make sure your hook's tight enough so that it doesn't come out the outside. And if you've got a thick part of the paste that's showing, which we have there, just pull your paste down into it, like that, so your hook disappears into it, and then roll it between your 2 first fingers like that to make a bud shape, like that. Doesn't have to be too precise, and they don't have to be all the same size. I've got a load here that I made earlier, and they are all different sizes of the buds on them, so it doesn't really matter, because if you look at the trees, the buds aren't all going to be all the same size anyway. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, people. That's one of those things. You shouldn't have a mobile phone with you when you're doing a demonstration. These things happen. Right, so those go to one side to dry. So we'll come on to the next bit, which is the colouring part. This is where things start getting a little bit more interesting. So we've got some of the colours here that I've used. I've used 2 colours here. I've used one called Pink from Edible Art and one called Ginkgo from Edible Art. The only reason I mention the names is because I'm not advertising the company. It's just so that you know which colours they are. You can go online and have a look at their website and see what they are. So I'm using that for the back, the green for the back of the flowers and the buds, and the pink for the edge of the petals. So I'm going to use the pink. I'm not going to put any more in here because you don't need a lot of colour. You just need a small amount. I think that's my one that I've just done, which is still soft. That's a dried one there. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to catch the very edge of the petals here. I'm trying to make sure I don't go off camera. I'm just going to adjust that up a little bit, just so you can see what I'm doing here when I get to this point. because when I start putting things together, I've got a habit of going out of shot. So I have had some comments from friends of mine that have watched the video and said you're going out of shot. So I don't have a camera person, so if I had, then that wouldn't happen, would it? Because the camera would follow me. And because I haven't got a camera person, then I don't have anybody following me. So I'm doing the back of the petals as well. You're just catching the edges of them, so you just got a hint of colour. Some have more colour as well, and some of them have like a little an upside down triangle. No, right side triangle, so it comes up into a point just from the base of a dark burgundy. But again, if you go online and have a look at cherry blossom, then you'll see what I mean. And I've got a bud here as well that I've already made, so I'm just going to catch just the very tip of that with a little bit of the pink. And then while I've got that in my hand, we'll come to the back, and I'm going to do the backs of the bud with some green. Like that. People say to me, why do you use a big brush like that on something small? Because you get a better effect. You want a faded effect. You don't want lines around it or anything like that. You want that sort of fade, because the buds start off green, and then unlike some buds, they don't have a calyx on these, and the bud starts to turn the colour, same as it does on an orchid. If you watch an orchid opening, it doesn't have a calyx on the back, and as it opens, the bud turns to the colour of the flower just before it opens, and it's the same with a lot of other flowers. And with the flower, I'm just going to catch the base of the back of the flower here with some colour like that. Right, so once that's done, we can start putting things together. So I've got a 20 gauge wire here, which I'm going to tape everything onto it. Now for this one, I'm going to use full width brown tape, for the simple reason that the stems on trees and that are a bit thicker than they are with other flower stems. So we have to bear in mind that when we're taping things onto here, we are mimicking nature. The reason I usually use half width tape is because it doesn't make it as thick, but I don't mind it being thicker with this, because we're putting something onto something that's going to be a branch. So I'm going to start off with a small brown bud right at the very tip. Now I don't know whether anybody knows this, it depends on how much you know about gardening and things like that, but I tend to research a lot of things. You have two different kinds of buds on a branch. You have the buds, which are going to turn into your leaves, and then you have secondary buds. Secondary buds never open out into a leaf, but what happens is if you prune that branch, then the secondary buds then come into action, and then they open to start producing the new shoots on the branch that you're doing. So there we are, a little bit about nature and how it works. It's amazing what you learn in this job, because when you're recreating nature, then it's a good idea to find out about nature and how it works. That wants to go around that side and that side. Pull that down. That's it. The leaves are a bit closer together, so I'm alternating the buds on either side. Just keep pulling your wires down to make sure they're right in. The buds come right up to the branch before the leaves open. There will be a bit of a stem on them once the leaves open, but at this point they are right up to the stem. Now I'm going to do two wires. I'm going to get another one in a minute, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another branch to put onto here. So I'm just going to put some buds and some flowers in at this point. Now they grow in groups like this, so you'll get a few flowers all together. This is where I have to be careful I don't break a petal off, because I'm terrible at breaking bits off, as I've said before with people, you know, I mean, it happens to the best of us. Nobody's perfect. But for this one I'm just going to put a couple of flowers and a couple of buds in this one. And I'm going to tape down, and then I'm just going to come back up again. We'll put another bud in here. I'm hoping that people aren't shouting at the camera, get back in shot, because I have a screen in front of me, but unfortunately I've got to look up to see the screen and look down to see what I'm doing. So if I go out of shot, I apologise. But that's why I've altered my camera, because I'm hoping that I'm in the right position with this to keep everything in shot. Now, I'm not going to do any more on that one for the time being. I'm just going to tape down with that, down to there, that's it. And we'll just pop that one to one side, and I'm just going to get another 20 gauge wire and do another one like that. And I'm just going to use half a wire. I don't need a full wire for this. Oops, nearly knocked that on the floor. Right, so I start the tape off again. Always stretch it, and then if you just get your nail in and make sure that that's stuck together, and then just roll it between your finger and thumb. I'm going to start off with a smaller bud right on the very end again. And I've switched my phone off so I don't get any more phone calls disturbing me. Should have done that in the first place. I apologise everybody for not switching off, but I don't get that many phone calls, so it's just inopportune that I just happen to get one whilst I'm in the middle of doing a video. Just proves this is real life. Right, so I'm doing that a little bit shorter, so we'll put some buds and flowers in here. I've got a smaller bud. Doesn't matter if your buds aren't all the same size, by the way, as well. I mean, you can do them different sizes. You could do a group of buds, actually. In fact, I think we'll do that. We'll put a group of 3 buds in there for this little cluster. Don't forget to pull your wires down to make sure they're well in, but if you wait until you got your tape down a bit before you do that, and then you don't catch anything on your fingers and break things. That's why we do that. If you leave a bit of wire showing, and then you can do this, pull it right in so it's right up to the... This is why it's always worth studying anything that you're doing before you do it, to see how that particular thing grows that you're doing. There would be some buds in between there as well, but we're not making it too realistic. We're doing it real, sort of real, if you know what I mean. The thing is, when you do things like this for a customer, as long as it looks like the flower or plant or whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, then that's the important thing. Right, I'm just going to put some little group of flowers in here. We'll put a small one in, I think, there. For those people that are coming from Facebook, by the way, I put a little message on today thanking everybody that's liked our page for the classes that I teach, a private course, and we're hoping that now that we're coming out of lockdown that we'll get into be able to resume classes again. We'd all like to get back into it, so if anybody's interested in joining my classes in the Bradford area or surrounding areas, then please get in touch via Facebook. Right, so I've taped that down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to join these two together. So I'll start my tape off again under the first bud there, just come down a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the wire. I'm going to use a pair of pliers to do this because we don't want to damage anything like I normally do. So we'll just bend that down a little bit like that. Bring those flowers up like that. And then that will attach onto the side there like that. Now before you put anything else in, I would tape down with this. Past the end of where you've joined that in. I have about 3 buds left, so I'll just put some more buds in down here. Go back and start off there again. I'm just going to put a bud in at that side. Don't forget these are going to be your leaves that are in between your flowers when the flowers drop off. Pull those down, make sure that you haven't got your green wires showing. That's it. Another bud there. Just to go on that side. And then we'll put some more flowers in and some buds. If you bend your wires up before you put them in, then you don't knock any petals off. I'm doing well today, I haven't knocked any petals off. So I'll give myself a pat on the back when I've finished. Oops, knocked one off. I spoke too soon. But fortunately it's in between the others so you can't see that one. Just going to come down a bit further. And I'm just going to put some buds in, a little group of 3 buds in here. Always do them in odd numbers, don't put even numbers in, so you don't want 2 or 4 or anything like that. Try and keep it to 3s and 5s. Just got a bit of straggly tape there that we've got sticking out. That's it. Then tape all the way down to the bottom. Now you can do this as big or as small as you can, but if you were doing a cake with these cherry blossoms on, you could actually brush embroidery them on the side of the cake. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bend the wires round now so that they're not straight, because the branches don't grow straight. There we are. Just bring those up a bit around that side. And just play around with your flowers just to get them just as you want them. Just move that out of the way and put that down here. And there we have your cherry blossom branch. I hope you've enjoyed that. I enjoy doing these videos for people, but please leave comments down at the bottom of the page if you've got anything you want to ask me or anything you'd like to see me do. Also, don't forget to hit the bell as well. That will tell you when I'm uploading a new video, so that if you want to follow me, and don't forget to subscribe as well. Look forward to seeing you in the next video, and look after yourselves and stay safe, everybody. Thank you and goodbye.